All right. Welcome, everybody, to the Higher Ed Deep Dive at D2L Fusion this year. We hope you're having a great Fusion so far. I very much hope that you were able to see our Solution Spotlight live stream a little bit ago. In the deep dives, we like to dive in a little bit deeper, spend a little bit more quality time with a selection of the things that you may have seen little snippets of on the Solution Spotlight stage. And we're really excited to dive into that and show you some cool stuff today. My name is Jack Panett. I'm the Vice President of Product Strategy at D2L. I've been at D2L for many years. Before that, ran ed tech at a public university for a long time. And very excited to be able to talk to you today about some of the great new things we have coming out in products.
And my name is Danielle Burt, and I'm a senior solution engineer at D2L. I've been at the company for about 6 years, but been in education for about 12. And I've been on our implementation team at D2L as well as in the solution engineering space, showcasing really what Brightspace can do.
Amazing. So a quick summary of what we're going to spend time on today. And again, these are some of the items that you may have seen a little bit of if you saw our solution spotlight earlier. We're going to spend the first part of our time together today talking about creating amazing learning moments. And in order to do that, we're going to showcase some great stuff that's coming out with the brand new D2L Lumi, which we're super excited about, as well as advancements within Creator Plus. After that, we're going to be talking about aligning learning moments and specifically diving into the new capabilities in the Achievement Plus package that we are just releasing now. And finally, we'll talk about teaching our learning moments and illustrate some of the advancements within plain old Brightspace itself. We're excited for all three of these, but we're going to start out with the thing that I'm the most excited about today, which is D2L Lumi. D2L Lumi is a brand new set of intelligent capabilities from D2L. It's something that we've been working on for a while. It's something that we've been working on with a lot of you. Us coming to the set of capabilities in Lumi came directly from some of the interactions that we had at our labs spaces at last year's Fusion. So tons of folks who attended Fusion last year were able to give inputs to that. And it also came directly from a ton of interviews and talks and sit-down sessions with many of you in the client space. And it also came from a lot of beta testing and early access testing, where we asked folks to be generous with their time and give us some input on some of the things that we were working on. All of those things led us to this release, which we're super excited about. Some amazing brand new intelligent capabilities that are designed around the key aspects of keeping the educator in charge, keeping the educator in the loop, but saving that educator time and making it much easier and much faster for them to create amazing learning moments with an intelligent assist.
And so let's see it in action with Brightspace quizzes first. So as we head into Brightspace, within the quiz library, we're going to have this very clear indicator alerting the instructor that they can generate questions. As this pops up, it guides you through instructions of selecting course content or custom text. For this example, we will select specific content within our course that is going to align to these ideas or these quiz questions that we're generating, including a PowerPoint presentation for this use case. We have maximum flexibility by selecting the number of questions and even the question type within that, with the added benefit of aligning to best practices with Bloom's taxonomy. As we generate these quiz questions, this is going to give the instructor, again, that driver's seat of reviewing these selected ones that Lumi Quizzes generates. By selecting the first one, for example, we see the actual details of the question. Within Brightspace, we also want feedback, so we don't assume we got it right the first time. And so we alert the instructor to actually give us feedback and even can remove a question option so that, again, there's maximum flexibility on the instructor side. We can discard this one and maybe keep this one as is. This then puts that indicator again to the human that D2L Lumi was a part of this process. And as we save this here, we're going to see that maintained indicator of what's reviewed and what was then generated by Lumi Quizzes. This really completes that story of incorporating it into our core tools to allow Lumi to be an assistant, a tool for efficient design in our quizzes.
That is amazing, Danielle. Thank you for showing us that. The things that I'm most excited about in this new Lumi capability for helping to create quiz questions is that it starts from your course material. Everything that Lumi is doing here is acting as an assistant to you and your expertise. So the basic starting point is to take a piece of content that you already have in your course. Hey, I've uploaded this reading, or I've uploaded this presentation, or I've uploaded an instructional video even. Take that as a starting point and give me some quiz questions so that I can construct a quiz quickly. It really acts as a sort of cognitive assistant as opposed to being a sort of artificial external source for course materials. It's more of you and more of your expertise as an instructor. That's the thing that I find the most exciting about it. And because it is acting as an assistant for instruction, it has things like the Bloom's taxonomy level built into it so that you can pitch the questions that are being generated as ideas for you to review to the right level of critical thinking that you're expecting your students to be involved in at this point in the course and that you're hoping to assess as part of this particular quiz. Really, it's an instructionally appropriate assistance tool.
Absolutely, Jack. And we wouldn't be Brightspace or D2L if we weren't consistent. So in Brightspace, we also aligned Lumi assignments or Lumi technology to all of our assessment tools, including Lumi assignments. So as I head into the assignment tool, in Brightspace, I'm going to jump into creating that new assignment, and we bring up that modern new assignment workflow with, again, that clear indicator to the instructor that they have the ability to use Lumi assignments to generate ideas related to assessments. We want maximum flexibility on the number of ideas, and again, that consistency of aligning to Bloom's taxonomy. We could just select all of the materials in Quiz 2 or specific items, and I'll get into that in our discussion tool in a few minutes. We'll just pick all of week 2 for this example while we generate 3 assignment ideas. This is then aligned to our content and our curriculum, but still puts the instructor in the driver's seat to select a different one, drop it in, and see that clear indicator that they have used Lumi assignments with the ability to clear it if they didn't want to do that. We add in a quick title, and then we save and close, which is going to drop this into our linear learning model so that our students just have to progress to the next assessment.
That's incredibly cool, Danielle. Thank you for showing me that. The thing that is the most exciting to me about this is the contextual difference in terms of how it's selecting the material that's going to be used in order to generate the new discussion idea. So you showed us in the quiz example earlier that you could select a piece of content that you'd uploaded, like a PowerPoint or a Word document, or use an HTML file or whatever it is, PDF. But in the case of discussions, it's actually letting you select the context of the entire module. So if you have it broken up into chapter 1, chapter 2, week 1, week 2, you can pick at that slightly higher level, at the level of the module itself, and have Lumi use all of that context to generate a discussion idea. That's incredibly cool and a great efficiency. And it also really is helpful for the instructional design practice of looking for discussion across all of the course materials that are part of the current unit.
Another more specific example is, let's say I recorded a video of material and just wanted to generate discussions on that video alone. So I wanted to show how revolutionary that is to be able to use Lumi discussions to generate ideas to talk with your students, but on a particular content piece that is specific as a video. So I'm going to use that same workflow of going into content, grabbing a new discussion, and having that clear and consistent generate discussion ideas. But in this example, when I pick my number of ideas in Bloom's taxonomy, I'm going to pick an MP4 that I previously recorded that has transcription within the video to have auto-generated captions. As this loads, these prompts are based on the content of my video, which is absolutely massive in incorporating assessment aligned to every type of content that you have in your course. We once again give that a quick name and align that to our module that we've been creating in.
And look at that. That's an excellent way to generate a new idea or set of ideas for discussion prompts. And I just got to pause for a second to go over again how completely revolutionary that is. You can use Brightspace to record an instructional video using your camera, or you can take a video that you've already created and just drag and drop it into the Brightspace course content area. It will automatically be placed on a real streaming server. It can have automatic captions generated in a bunch of different languages, and then you can use the video as a source for creating new discussion topics or new assignment prompts using D2L Lumi, and it will use the actual transcript that it generated earlier of that video in order to auto-create a new discussion topic for you or a new assignment prompt for you. So the whole thing can happen inside of Brightspace, from a video to the text out of that video and the transcript information out of that video auto-generated to helping you generate these prompts. Really kind of a revolutionary idea compared to how you would need to walk through those workflows even a year ago. So having done all of this great stuff and created some wonderful new instructional materials, really rapidly generating new things like discussion prompts and assignment prompts and quiz questions out of your existing course materials, it's going to be really exciting to see how Lumi can progress our standards of education even further. In particular, one of the things that we know is once people have built awesome course materials, a lot of times we hear that they would like to be teaching with outcomes as well. But teaching with outcomes has amazing benefits, but also takes a certain amount of time to set up for most folks. So we're really excited that one of the things that we have coming out very, very soon with Lumi, just in the next little while, is an ability to have Lumi actually help you bring outcomes into your courses. And now Danielle is going to give us a little preview of what that's going to look like.
Absolutely, Jack. So Brightspace has always been a leader in the competency-based and outcome achievement space, and this is no different in really aligning that ease of use. So many times I work with institutions where they bring in outcomes, but then how do you actually generate the alignment? Well, then we simply edit an existing assessment. And previously, I'd have to click this really easy to use outcomes button, but then I'd have to sift through all of the course outcomes and sort of make that judgment myself of how I'm aligning the outcome structure to the assessments. What if it was a simple Lumi outcome button that if I clicked is going to suggest that alignment? Really making best practices in both curriculum design, but then assessments, and then finally aligning it easily with that. So we have that clear indicated short code right in line. So we have that indicator that this has been aligned to an outcome with one single click of Lumi outcomes. We save and close, and then we are bringing that into our assessment space, into our curriculum.
That is super amazing, Danielle. I love the idea of having Lumi be an assistant to helping you align your outcomes to all of your course materials, in part because it means that Lumi is giving you a leg up to starting to teach with outcomes. Brightspace's outcome system has some really amazing visualizations. It's designed to be incredibly simple for the educator to be able to say, hey, this outcome is perhaps aligned with a rubric or perhaps not aligned with a rubric, and I'm just going to direct assess it. But it builds that assessment into the normal grading and feedback process that you would be doing anyway inside of Brightspace. If you can click, here's how well this student has done on this learning outcome inside of that normal grading workflow, they've achieved level 1 or level 2 or level 3 of mastery for that outcome, then you produce a bunch of really interesting information on the other side. Great visualizations for you as an instructor, also great visualizations for the student to be able to see how they're progressing toward those learning outcomes. And Lumi is doing something totally revolutionary here in helping you really rapidly move from, hey, I have these courses that I've built in Brightspace and I'm familiar with them and I teach with them, to really rapidly getting to, I have all of my stuff aligned with outcomes. That's not the only place that Lumi is really outcomes aware. It's fantastic that Lumi Outcomes will be able to help you rapidly match your learning outcomes to the items in the course, but also intelligence about how outcomes work is threaded into other areas. For example, when you were generating questions before, if you generate questions from a piece of content that has been tagged to one of those course outcomes, then the quiz questions that are generated by Lumi Quiz are also tagged to those same quiz outcomes. So having outcomes threaded through everything that Lumi does is going to be a real assist to a lot of teachers. Finally, we have some amazing Lumi capabilities that are also being introduced in the Creator Plus space. We have the example of creating quiz questions that Danielle showed to us earlier. I'm really excited about those quiz question capabilities. But at D2L, we've been investing a lot in other uses of questions over the last little while, and in particular, putting questions directly in line into your content. We know from learning science that it makes a big difference whether you are presenting students with, here's a 10-minute long reading versus do 2 minutes of reading, and then we will prompt you to answer a little knowledge check question, and then do 2 more minutes of reading, and we'll prompt you to sort of touch the screen in a little drag and drop activity. Adding interactives into your content materials and adding little knowledge checks that are in line within those knowledge consumption activities that your learners are doing makes a big difference to learner engagement. And we also know that it makes some difference to the way that students retain information and how successful they are at really achieving in the course. So for all of that, we are going to introduce some new Lumi capabilities that will show up in our Creator Plus suite. Creator Plus is the toolkit that makes it really simple for absolutely anybody to add in those interactives into their content, to add in those inline knowledge checks, to make it richer, more engaging, to do inline formative assessments without having to have a crazy professional tool that's super expensive, and without necessarily having to have instructional design assistants, because it's just easy for folks to get into. Even easier if Lumi can assist you in creating those knowledge checks a little bit faster. So Danielle is going to show us what that looks like.
Absolutely, Jack. So as I create beautiful content pages using Brightspace instructional design best practices like document templates and accessible headings, I then want to add in a formative assessment or a knowledge check to apply that learning. So we open up that edit experience. We're clearly prompted that Lumi Assist is here to help us. And then we head into that content page to say, okay, at the end of this wonderful content, let's have our learners apply this. So we simply add in, using our easy to use plus sign where we're already designing, to insert a practice. This clearly indicates that Lumi Practices is available here as an assist. Now, we could create our own question if we wanted to, but we can use this assistant to say, okay, take in the content of my text, maybe using a multiple choice question, with the ability to add in custom text and indicators of what's required in this source text. So let's say I read something great this morning I wanted to add in, I could, and then we're generating that question with, again, that consistent feedback loop to make sure we're doing it to the best of our ability. We can regenerate it if we need it, or even discard it from here. We want to be able to have maximum control over this, so we could, let's say, after it's generated using Lumi Practices, adjust a particular answer to a different option. And we see it reflected in that real-time preview on the right, so you see the student experience. And so as I close this is dropping that multiple choice question right in the content page we were creating. And this is going to take a content page from great to even better, because learners are now applying their knowledge before they move on to the next area with real-time feedback on whether they got it correct or not.
Absolutely amazing. So I hope that many of you in the audience have already had some experience trying out Creator Plus, or are already using it in production at your schools, because many are. But with this new Lumi capability, it becomes even faster and even better for every educator, everybody who has a course inside of Brightspace, to really rapidly enhance that course. The next time you're editing a piece of content, you can really quickly place inline knowledge check questions with Creator Plus practices, even faster with an assist from Lumi. I liked the way that Lumi, in the example that you gave, Danielle, just showed, here is all of the text from this particular piece of content that we're using to generate new questions that are going to be placed in line. Really gives control for you to say, hey, I want to alter really rapidly which piece of text is actually being included, or I want to restrict the questions to just one part of this content. You can control that really easily when Lumi is showing you, here's the text that we're actually using to generate these questions that are going to go in line. I also really enjoyed the fact that even though this is an intelligent assistant and Lumi is generating the question for you, it is always prompting you as the educator or instructional designer to say, hey, is this question right? You have to approve it before you move on. And it even gives you a direct, immediate, no extra clicking option for editing those quiz questions so that you can ensure that they are exactly right. So that you can make sure that, oh, I would like this distractor instead of this other distractor in that multiple choice question, all with a real-time preview. It just makes it so fast and so easy for folks to enhance their courses in this way. So lots of great new capabilities with the new D2L Lumi suite. But the next piece that we're going to be talking about is once we've created and authored awesome materials inside of Brightspace, aligning the learning moment. And we talked a little bit already about the outcome system inside of Brightspace. We're continuing to make investments in outcomes because we think it's such a great way to manage viewpoints of student achievement and student progress inside of your courses. An extra layer of meaning on top of the progression or the traditional grade system. And it has huge benefits for students to be able to see how they are progressing toward actual mastery of capabilities or knowledge that they're going to need for their successful future after they're finished with this course, after they've graduated. And it also produces great information for the instructor. And sometimes it can also produce great information for the program or great information for the institution. So Outcomes is available to absolutely everybody. You can turn it on if you have Brightspace. But with the brand new capabilities that we're introing today, you can do even more at the program or institutional level with the brand new D2L Achievement Plus dashboards. If we've invested in making teaching with outcomes much easier to get started with, easier to operationalize because educators can just mark levels of mastery on their existing grading flows. After we've done that, we have the ability to show these amazing visualizations to the instructor and the student. But what Achievement Plus does is introduces brand new additional capabilities for reporting on and correlating and visualizing all of that outcome mastery information and outcome achievement information from those students at the program level. And lots of folks need reports like that in order to do program improvement processes, in order to produce materials that will be used as part of accreditation processes. Really takes this information to a whole new level of value and efficiency for folks who are managing the programs themselves. So in order to get a closer look at that, Danielle is now going to walk us through some things about outcomes and the new dashboards that are available with Achievement Plus.
Absolutely, Jack. So as I jump into Brightspace, I wanted to level set a little and talk about what's currently in our core product related to outcomes. So if I were to head into the outcomes tool, we have maximum flexibility to support outcome alignment by bringing in the outcomes in technology. So we can easily add individual outcomes, import from existing achievement standards network, or even from the higher level in the system at the program, but then finally for that maximum flexibility to even import by a file. This allows you to bring what you already have mapped out in a curriculum structure into the actual platform. But what you get in Achievement Plus is the ability to take this further and set achievement scales. If we were to head into this achievement scale area, we see that we can set an organizational default for that consistency across the platform, but also for the added flexibility, you could set additional achievement scales that maybe are even course-based. What you get in Achievement Plus is this added additional effort to be able to align an achievement threshold. Why this is fantastic is, yes, data is great to say they earned a certain level on the actual assessment, but what if we could say that deems mastery or competence in a particular area or outcome? This really allows you really clear indicators to say whether a student is succeeding across a number of assessments or whether they need that intervention for student support. Once we have the outcome structure in the technology, as well as the achievement scale set across the system, and finally that achievement scale threshold, we then need to align it to the actual assessments. Now, we went through a lot of that already in our previous walkthrough related to Lumi outcomes. If we were doing this for a new assignment, for example, it's just as easy to click this button and again, easily select and align it to a completely new assessment. This really completes that technology complement to a curriculum map where you imported the outcomes, you set thresholds of achievement, and you aligned it to that assessment, really completing that successful implementation of an outcomes-based structure. Now, before we head into the actual course-based achievement, I wonder, Jack, if you could tell us why we created this mastery view.
Yeah, absolutely. So the mastery view is a really awesome complement to a traditional viewpoint on grades inside of a course. And in particular, since we have tried so hard to make outcomes really easy to use for the educator, to have a low barrier to entry, compared to kind of traditional systems, which have a high barrier to entry, and it's really hard to get started. Once we make it easy and attractive to use, we also want the benefit of using outcomes as part of your digital teaching and learning practice to be instantly apparent. So the mastery view allows the instructor to sort of immediately see how students are progressing on their mastery of these outcomes over the timeline of their course. So from the beginning of the semester to the end of semester, if there are multiple activities that are aligned to particular outcomes, you can instantly see how each individual student is progressing toward their mastery of each of those outcomes.
And what's great about that is, like I have on the screen now, we have this traditional gradebook. You don't lose that in adding in outcomes-based mastery to your curriculum. And so as we see this traditional gradebook on the screen, it's one single toggle to be able to toggle over and see how are my learners, my students, how are they progressing through the outcomes here in a bird's eye view dashboard that's very easy to interpret. So that's part of our absolute core platform. So you have that available to you. Where we're taking it to the next level is because we set that threshold of achievement in our settings for our outcomes, we now have this dashboard here that gives you a quick snapshot of all of the outcomes in your course and then where that met, not met threshold is. So you can easily hover over and see how many of your students are in which categories of that threshold of achievement. And even the ability to intervene and say, okay, well, there are certain ones here where large numbers of students aren't actually achieving that met category. And so if we wanted to either intervene through the actual interface using something like an intelligent agent, or we could also export to CSV and have that data externally for accreditation purposes. This really allows an easy to use visualization without sacrificing the ability to report this in external systems in your technological ecosystem at your institution.
That's pretty amazing, Danielle. I just have to reiterate how incredibly cool this is. So we've invested in making outcomes in core Brightspace really easy. Absolutely everybody who uses Brightspace has the opportunity to use outcomes in their teaching. We've made it super fast to add a set of course outcomes at the program level or at the course level. We've made it much faster and easier to align those outcomes to all of the content items and assessments inside of the platform. Once they're aligned to an assessment, we've made it super simple for the instructor to mark a mastery level on that outcome in the flow of their ordinary grading and feedback workflow. They don't have to do anything extra or special. Then you get amazing visualizations at the course level for both the instructor and the student to be able to see the progression of those mastery levels. And what you've just shown us with these new dashboards at the higher level is that you can now get nearly for free the ability to show all of the aggregation of that mastery completion and mastery achievement across a whole set of courses in a particular program. This is the kind of data view and the kind of visualization and reporting capability that folks normally spend a huge amount of time and a huge amount of effort and a huge amount of additional expense trying to bolt on an external system in order to do. And what we're hoping to have folks do here is use natural workflows that they can do already inside the learning management system to simply produce this information as a side effect.
And that's so great, Jack, because in Brightspace, in the Insights portal, you're going to have that program level achievement dashboard right here as the outcome achievement card. It takes one click for me to click in and then select from the programs I should be permissioned to see. Let's pick biology for this use case. So as this loads here in biology, we have the ability to see that high level program view of that met, not met. So we're maintaining that threshold of achievement, not only at the course level, but then aggregating up to these higher level outcomes. Right now, we have programs and semesters as the filters, but as we continue to develop this dashboard, we're going to provide more granular filters as we continue to innovate. The next question I usually get in this space is, how do I drill down to see what makes up the literacy program level outcome? Well, absolutely in Brightspace and in this achievement dashboard, you can click through and see these lower level outcomes to really support that hierarchy of a curriculum map, and even lower to see that secondary hierarchy so we can maximize parent to child relationships in that outcome structure. We also want to be consistent in allowing you to export to CSV if you needed this data at an aggregate level out in your systems of record or for accreditation purposes. All of this visualization is just inline for you to use. It doesn't need any configuration or the ability to build it because it's just provided for you inline with the maximum flexibility of taking that data elsewhere and connecting it with other system data.
And of course, that data is also available in Brightspace datasets for all of your data science folks to use. Danielle, that's awesome. This really strikes me as kind of a best of both worlds scenario. Because we've worked really hard in concert with a bunch of clients in order to make outcomes easy to use for individual educators, you're able to really quickly map outcomes to all of your materials at the course level and to your assessments. But for the educator, they're just marking their ordinary rubric, or they're marking a level of mastery for that outcome directly, and it's just in line in their normal grading and feedback workflows. That produces really great data and visualizations at the course level for how students are progressing towards mastery on all of these outcomes. And then Achievement Plus just adds an amazing layer to that, making it just as easy to get reports that are aggregated all the way up at the program level and to report on a sort of binary threshold achievement so that you get both the mastery level view and the binary threshold achievement view of your outcomes sort of almost for free from the educator's perspective and at way, way, way less expense and time and effort and difficulty compared to trying to do this completely in an external system or horror of horrors on paper and in your Excel spreadsheets. Awesome stuff. Okay, the final thing that we're going to spend time on today is the actual teaching process, perhaps the most important part. You've seen us talk about a bunch of brand new stuff that we're introducing, but that doesn't mean that we are slowing down on our investments in the core platform and in making all of the workflows that teachers and students go through easier to use. So one of the things that we're most proud of this year is introducing our brand new display designs for activities inside of Brightspace in the new content experience. I know a bunch of you know about the new content experience, but not all of you are using it. So maybe I'll just take a second to talk about that. We have two different visualizations for scope and sequence and for table of contents inside of Brightspace. We have the classic content experience that lots of people are using, and we have the new content experience. They are different from each other, but they work on the same model, so you can switch back and forth between them really fast and without breaking anything at any time you decide to do that. That's an important part. But different programs and different institutions might choose to use the classic content experience or the new content experience, depending on their design goals and how they want to present materials to their students and their course community. what we've been doing is adding in some amazing new visualizations into that new content experience, because our goal is to make it so incredibly cool that it becomes a no-brainer for you to decide to move to that newer design and the new content experience. And as a result of that, we've seen a lot of folks kind of migrating naturally over time across our entire client base at D2L. We're now at the point where roughly 50% of folks are using the new content experience. So we think this practice is working. The new thing that we've introduced in the new content experience with these brand new designs for inline activity display are just a huge upgrade to how nice it feels and how good it looks. To have all of your accessible activities like discussions and assignments and quizzes in line in the new content experience. And it's also a big upgrade to efficiency for the instructor. One of the coolest things that you're going to see about this is the way that it allows the instructor to get all of the information that they need about the student progress on that activity directly in line as well, reducing the number of clicks that they need to do in order to get their work done in a day, reducing the sort of cognitive load for every instructor as well. So I'm really, really excited to have Danielle take a moment to show us what these new displays look like.
That's great, Jack. So I'm going to bring up Brightspace here and really showcase that new content experience. Now, I will say as I jump into that content tool here, I teach in Brightspace, and the new content experience recently with this inline experience made me want to immediately move to the new content over Classic. So if I head into a week 1 here and click on a quiz, you'll see as I scroll through this page that this inline experience gives an instructor every single thing they need from an inline experience, making it so I don't have to click anywhere to get that information. So whether it be that I need to edit it or launch the actual quiz, or just quickly glance at the materials and grading scheme related to my actual quiz, I have that all in line. The next area I usually need is related to students. And so, of course, in line without any single click, I have that completion summary, really demonstrating all of my students' information, whether it be the number of attempts they're on, their completion status, their grade, or even if this requires an instructor intervention in that grading for a quiz, like a long answer, for example, I can simply with one click from an inline experience go to that evaluation. The added benefit here is I can also see that certain students also have special access for accommodations. So if they need extra time or time multipliers, that is a clear indicator in this completion summary. Now, even for huge classes, we have the ability to search and then filter so that we can make this a really workable queue related to completion across an assessment. Now, once again, we are consistent in Brightspace, and we want that throughout our entire tool set. So of course, if I head into week 2 and grab maybe an assignment, that same mentality is here. So whether it be attached instructions, the rubric, things related to the actual assessment, or once again, that completion summary, you can see that consistent user experience. So if I learn it once in Brightspace, I can learn it every single time across the assessment tools because they're consistent.
That is incredibly cool, Danielle. And I just really want to focus in on the fact that that is all to the benefit of instructors. The less they have to click from one area to another, every single click that's saved is hours saved over the course of the month or over the course of the semester. And this new design really makes it so that there's less need for them to go up to the navigation bar and click into this specific tool like the assignments tool and scroll through the list of the assignments and find the place where that specific assignment is. All of this is just presented in the flow of their work. So if they're in the context of week 2 right now, they see all of the information that they need at a glance and can jump into things like the grading workflow immediately from that context. Less navigation needed, less clicking needed. A huge time saver for faculty members. And then, of course, we are investing in ease of use for absolutely everybody, but we have not forgotten about bringing value to those of you who are a little bit more pushing the envelope or who have additional needs inside of your assessment workflows. We're really excited to be rolling out into production a thing that we've had in testing with a subset of our client base who've been doing beta work for us on this, with these new assignment assessment workflows. These are some great controls for folks who are doing things like teaching very large classes and need to keep track of who is grading which pieces of student work in those very large courses. It's also a fantastic tool for people who are working on higher stakes assessments and may need to have special workflows on top of the normal grading process for Brightspace assignments. So it's things like co-marking capabilities and multi-evaluator capabilities. This has been available on your non-production sites for just a little while here as we've been expanding from that very small restricted beta into a more open beta. And we are just about any moment now ready to turn that on your production environments and make this available to you. We're really excited to see who can progress from kicking the tires on these new capabilities to actually putting them into practice during the upcoming fall semester.
I like to call them power users, Jack, because every new setting in Brightspace, they really like to try it out and work it into their curriculum. So for example, if I wanted to do advanced assessment in this assignment proposal, I open up this assignment experience, and just like every other assignment, I have this evaluation and feedback consistently here. But if I wanted to then add in advanced assessment, it's no more difficult than selecting one button to select your evaluators. So for example, if I have teaching assistants like Regina in my course with me, I can then select both of us to split up the grading evaluation. But let's say with Regina being a teaching assistant, I still want maximum control on who is actually publishing the final assessment to the grade data getting to students. And so I simply select this dropdown to say I want to manually select the publishers, keeping myself as the main publisher for student data. That allows me to have individuals permissioned in the course help me with my grading, but also maximize the flexibility on who's actually pushing that final button to students for them to see their grade data. The next area is then how are we splitting up our evaluators to the allocations of students? Now, if we had huge classes, we wouldn't want to manually select each of these buttons. So we efficiently provide bulk workflows so you can manage the allocation of your learners to your respective evaluators. You have maximum flexibility here on how to then allocate your users, whether it's all to every learner or randomly allocating one evaluator to every learner evenly. This provides maximum flexibility without a difficult workflow. We have one final selection to say how we are actually calculating the evaluation once each of the evaluators have done their review. So whether it be one shared evaluation where they're all working on that same one, or you have multiple individual evaluations where the publishers are actually aggregating the results into one final evaluation and releasing it to learners. That was 3 clicks to do something that is called advanced assessment, really making it easy to do in Brightspace, but have those advanced workflows at your fingertips.
That's absolutely amazing, Danielle. The thing that I love the most about this is the way that it can really help folks who have those more advanced needs around their assessment practices to do it really efficiently and really fast, and all without leaving the normal workflow that they're already used to inside of Brightspace. What we heard from folks as we were designing and working toward these capabilities in the assignment tool was that there are a bunch of people at a bunch of institutions who are still keeping track of things like who is assigned to do what grading in a very large course on paper or in their Slack or Microsoft Teams channels, or some way outside of the LMS itself, leading it to be harder than it needs to be, leading it to be potentially error prone. That kind of tracking stuff on paper can all go away when it's super, super simple to allocate. How is my very large class going to be broken up into all the different people doing grading workflows for me right here inside of Brightspace? And then, of course, the folks who need to do high stakes assessment inside of the Brightspace assignments tool and who might want to do things like have multiple people evaluate independently before determining what's going to be the final grade that gets recorded for that student's work. They also were doing things like paper workflows and let's go print out each student's assignment and distribute it to different evaluators so that we can get that high quality, highly auditable assessment of this high stakes activity. If you can do all of that stuff inside of Brightspace, it just means that you've saved everyone time and you've produced great data that you can see on the back end of it. And it's a huge advancement forward for folks who are using Brightspace and using the assessment tools inside of Brightspace for more advanced use cases. Thank you so much for joining us today, everybody. And thank you, Danielle, for doing a fantastic job of walking us through some of these new advancements. We are really happy to be delivering a bunch of great new stuff inside of Brightspace for all of our higher education clients, from the new advanced assessment capabilities that we just saw, to the huge advancements that we've made in making outcomes really easy to use, to brand new designs inside of the new content experience that we hope you'll be able to get into really rapidly. And also net new capabilities that you've never seen before, like all of the new D2L Lumi intelligent assistant capabilities, and the new Achievement Plus dashboards that we've introduced as well. Thank you so much for giving us some of your time today. There's a bunch more stuff coming at Fusion, and we hope you will have a wonderful Fusion 2024.